So we have a flea market purchase. It's a like not really branded axe. It says A36 on it. It's red paint. I assume the paint was done by the person who owned it before. I have no idea what brand this is. It's got ridged eyes. Maybe it's a Kelly. I actually, strangely enough, have another axe that's a boy's axe that has the same pattern: red paint, ridged eyes. It could be a Kelly. Uh, it's not bad, and actually the handle it came with is, if you can see the color here. Let's get a little closer. It's very dark. It's very dried out. So it had what looks like a lacquer or some type of finish on it that prevented it from uh, just rotting out completely. Um, you can. It's actually pretty neat because you can see like as I get close how open this grain is. It's really just dried, and it hasn't warped. Probably due to the fact that it had a lacquer finish on it. But yeah, grain orientation is not perfect on this handle, so maybe that's what led to it not warping as bad. However, it does need to be. It did crack up here. It did crack right where the front of the eye was. I had nothing to do with this. When I pulled it out, it was just like that. Um, but overall, it's actually not a bad handle. So I'm working on restoring it, and I was sanding it, and then I opted to just spoke shave it because it's just gets a better finish, better reveal. Going really light with this. It's not really ideal to hold it this way, but it's working for me. So there's some parts that I can't quite reach, which I might opt for some sandpaper. But for now, it's coming loose. It's actually not like grip wise. Like some handles, you have to thin them down, and grip wise, it's not that bad. The It's just that it's not a bad handle. Like so the way some of these manufacturers do it, and this is just my preference, they sometimes will leave like a little bit of room here. Most of the times, if you have, actually, I have an example here. If you buy an axe new, most of the time they turn it on a lathe, and they leave this like really thick right here. And so it's up to the person who has the handle to, or who's hanging the head to thin this down. And you can kind of see it's quite a drop. It's quite the shelf. And that's actually a weak point on the axe. Now, the manufacturers, I believe, just do it on purpose to save time, materials, and because they don't have to thin it down themselves when they hang their axes, or when they sell the handles. They just make the handles, they sell them. You know, if you're, or in some cases, if you're a manufacturer and you just hang your head on that shelf with the press. Gone is the time when you had an actual axeman who knew exactly what was going to happen, hanging their head, thinning it down, doing all that. This head's going to turn out, this handle and head is going to turn out really nice, I can tell. Hopefully that doesn't cause too many issues. Looks pretty good. You can actually, you shouldn't feel like, there's a type of thing that I actually did at one point where, some guys, the way they do their heads is they just cut out the actual shape with a saw. They like shape it from a block, and they shape the eye portion out, essentially tracing it and making it with a saw, and then they just kind of leave the blocky part right here. They just hang their axe. But the way axes should be done, you don't have to worry about why, like, there being little to no space right here, because it's gonna stop regardless. Like, there's nothing, like, you don't have to worry about it slipping. You don't have to do any of that. Like, you don't need it to be just like, because it's a weak point. You want it to be, you want your transition to be just smooth. You want, like, you don't really want that much right here. There's nothing to worry about. So, it's just something I see every once in a while, and it's just like, you just kind of like shake your head, like, man, I can't believe these guys. Like, I was that at one point. I was that guy. I made an axe handle like that, and then it took me like a couple tries with the axe, and I was like, yeah, it sucks. This axe handle sucks, and so I made a new one, and that's my lesson. You know, life, you have to learn things in life. You should make mistakes and learn from them, or be allowed to at least. It's my feeling on it. Like, I could make a mistake here and learn from it, and that's fine. I'm actually going to use a file, because the more I've learned about file work, the more I collect files and rasps, the more I learn how nice it is to have something like this. It's just a ways different than sandpaper. Sandpaper, it's too wasteful, you know? Like, you can get so far with a rasp. You can accomplish what sandpaper can do. Sandpaper can get a good finish, yeah, but what you're doing is you're removing material to a point that it's different to sandpaper. Sandpaper clogs the pores of sandpaper. Like, what it does is it's just removing the material to a fine degree, and it's nice and powdery, the material it removes, but it's just the finish compared to planing, filing, smoke shaves, like, it's just worlds different, because you're actually removing like a nice thin surface. Like, scraping and all that just achieves a better result. That's why I like it. And experience has taught me that, like, yeah, it's actually a little bit nicer. Here we go. This is the one I want. I've got a couple other things on the hype end. I've got this, say, number 198 New York, and the logo is, it's hard to make out, but it came with hand plane iron. Can't quite make out. Appin Chapin Stevens Company, and that's on the project for today too. So, but for now, I was just switching to this because I found this way more relaxing. Hand planes, if you find your hand plane in decent condition, there's a couple things to go over when you look at your hand planes. Similar to axes, like you don't want something that's going to be too complicated to work on. Relatively easy to work with. You don't have to do much effort to restoring it, but you do have to have a bit of skill when you know what you're doing when you put it together, so you don't make a mistake. And that's something to all restorations. It's an art. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know what you like, you need to know what you want. So that way when you sell it to this person, as usually I sell these, I've only had a couple times where I've made a user and kept it. And what you want out of these is that the next person who buys it is not going to have a hard time. You don't want to be giving somebody like, here's a junk hand plane, that's it. That stuff is never fun. I'm probably going to sand the end grain here, because that is something that's kind of easier to do with sandpaper. Funny, this handle maybe have been the second grade that they were selling. It's got a knot. It's got a couple knots in here, which they're not. I've seen some people talk about the way they like their handles, quality, and some people just don't like the knots. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not as picky about it. I know that it's a preference, usually because they think it's a weak point, but I think my own experiences of using handles, I haven't had one break on me. I had one break accidentally, but that was due to my own error. And I was rolling a log and it rolled right on it, and that broke. And I was like, well, that's really my fault. So, there we go. should have a file or wrapped here. It should work for this. Here we go. This is a Simmons new old stock. So it was basically found in a factory warehouse. Here we are. This feels much better on the skin. I'm using the smoother part of this 4-way file. This feels really good. Check the time on here. Alright, we're good. Actually, let me check the timing. I think I'll probably end this and have to go walk my dog.